Welcome to CP Newsroom. I'm Nicole Menzi. Joining us today is Trip Lee, author, preacher, hip-hop artist, and founder of the ministry Built to Brag, which exists to communicate solid biblical truth to a young multicultural audience in engaging and powerful ways. Trip's current focus is an album/book project called Rise, which is his call to his young peers to wake up and live the way they were created to live. Welcome, Trip.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Okay, so first off, what's wrong with the way our youth lives today?
I think one of the things that happens is we feel like when we're really young, we can just it's just our time to enjoy ourselves, not really get that serious about life. I know that's how I felt.
Okay.
And so one of my passions has been helping us to think about how can we actually get up and live now, not like, you know, I'll wait till I'm 25, and then I'll get serious about God. I'll wait till I'm 30, wait till I'm 40.
Right.
I don't know. We were made for a reason, so let's live that way now and not waste our young years.
Okay, and what do you think are some of the distractions for today's youth?
Oh, I mean, I think, so in the book, like a lot of the stuff that we get distracted by is the same stuff other people get distracted by. It's just very unique for our youthful time. So I think we get a pass because we're young about not being that serious about stuff, putting off responsibilities. So I think the main distractions is just not taking life very seriously yet. Yeah, so I want to encourage us, let's live now.
Okay, and of course you have two approaches. You've got your message going across in the book and of course in the album of the same name. So maybe comment a little on that, how maybe you have multiple gifts. You can rap and you also aspire to, I think I saw in your bio, be a New York Times best-selling author.
I didn't write that, so I read that yeah, so I love music because music really connects with people in a unique way. It connects at a heart level, and a lot of people don't really read, but they do listen to music, and music does really impact the way people think. So this is like this Bible study I do at a high school in D.C., and you'd be surprised how much popular music impacts the way they're thinking about life, what their values are, what they're chasing after. So I want to use music actually to say good things and challenge us to use our lives well. But there's only so much I can say and communicate in a song, so that plays a purpose. In the book, I'm able to lay out more fully. I'm able to point to specific things in scripture where I'm getting ideas from. I'm able to tell my story a little bit more. Two very different approaches that accomplish different things, but I'm grateful. Both music and books have been huge in my own life, so I wanted to encourage people with them as well.
Okay, you're not calling or pressuring, your fan base or the people you inspire to follow your path exactly. Everybody has different gifts, different callings.
Absolutely.
And it's not always in the church.
Absolutely.
So I'm wondering then, what are some things you notice as you move around in ministry? Maybe when you're on tour and your fans come up to you and they share something deep and you feel like you got to pray with them. What are some concerns or needs you see and observe when you move around?
Yeah, I mean, I meet all kinds of different people who've been impacted by stuff in very different ways. I think some of the things that catch a lot of us up are relationships, especially while we're young. Every relationship seems very important. It's easy to get caught up in lustful relationships, and it's so hard to fight against. And so I talk to a lot of folks who those are issues that if we could get the big picture in mind. So there's a chapter in there I have on sex. There's a chapter in this book that I have specifically about porn. And so if we can see how sex fits into the big picture that God is actually telling, then we're going to look at it a lot differently. And so these are some of the things I'm trying to do in the book, think about how these different things fit in our lives. And with the album, again, I'm celebrating these same themes. I'm pressing on stuff emotionally, trying to get the message across.
Okay, and you just brought up a big point of discussion. Either churches shy away from the issue of sex and pornography, or some people feel they have to start a ministry just about that. So do you think, Christians in America talk about that stuff enough? Are we real about it enough from the pulpit?
I don't think we are. I think it is kind of taboo to talk about. Or on the other end, sometimes we just like to sensationalize it and make it too much about that. But what I'd rather do is I'd rather think about, okay, instead of acting like sex is either gross or that's the only thing we're ever to talk about, let's just talk about the right place it's supposed to play in our lives. Sex is a great thing God has given us to play a particular role in a particular context of a particular relationship. So when we think about it that way, then we can think about where it actually fits. So that's the way I try to approach it in the book. And especially the porn issue, which is really a huge issue for people
it's
in
bigger
our
in
generation.
The church than you want
oh
to
my
admit.
gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
And the industry is so lucrative, and I just want to help us to think carefully about the people we're objectifying and the damage that we do to our own souls when we engage in it.
Okay, and maybe touching on family and some cultural issues related to that a bit. You've been blessed to grow up with, both parents.
Yeah.
You were married, you have 2 kids, so obviously family is a thing to you.
Yeah.
So what do you think about, some of the issues that we're suffering in society, have been suffering for a while in terms of the breakdown of the family, guys not being responsible? What are your thoughts on that?
I've seen firsthand what it looks like for a father to be present, which I'm really grateful for. So I can't count the number of times I've been in a group of guys and I'm the only one who had his father in the home.
Right.
So I'm very grateful for that, and I was able to see what it looks like for a father to be present, and I'm able to then carry that in the way that I try to father my own son. So I think there is a cycle that happens where so many men I know who are about to get married or about to have kids have zero idea what it looks like to even try to be a father.
Right.
That's why a lot of men get scared and kind of run off. And so I think there is a desperate need for us to think about the importance of that, encourage each other in that, and even to be gracious when we mess up. Like, if we don't have a model for how to do it right, I want to be gracious with guys. And instead of being like, you suck, I want to talk about, well, how can we be better fathers and husbands? How can we be present in the way that God calls us to?
Okay, and since you preach also and you do conferences and whatnot, when you're moving around specifically in that area, I'm guessing maybe you don't see too many leaders of color. So any thoughts about that?
I think it kind of depends what environment you're in. Right. Often, kind of the ministries and organizations that have the most money, the most resources, are not often the most diverse.
Right.
And so there's also something kind of happening right now where people are realizing that, and they're kind of like, okay, I want to kind of get my token black guy, I want to kind of get my guy and all of these things. So there is some desire for diversity, there's that, and then there's some who just genuinely want to diversify because they see kind of the issue there. So I think there are a lot of organizations that are growing in that regard. For me, there's a lot of times I don't quite fit into, this is part of why I started Bragg, I don't quite always fit into the mission, vision, where these things are culturally. And so I'm trying to kind of carve a lane for people who look like me, talk like me, grew up like me, same kind of culture, but we want to think deeply about life and deeply about how to follow God. So I think there's room for a lot more diversity, and I think there is room for a lot more things to be led by people of color, and I think that's a good thing to happen.
Okay, and a point there you just mentioned, I'm wondering then, do you feel particularly called or burdened for maybe what you're describing as a hip-hop youth, a hip-hop culture? I
feel particularly burdened, not just hip-hop, though hip-hop is really influenced, really just urban, young, there's something very different going on with the way we used to think of the black church. That black church, I think, is going to feel a lot more different, and it means something very different to my generation than it does to the generation before. I sat in a room with maybe 40 black pastors and professors and scholars all thinking about some of these things, and what we realized in a lot of that conversation was the way they think of black church was very different to me. So like, I'm going to be part of a church plan next year, plant a church. I'll be one of the pastors, and I don't think I could plant a black church if I tried, because I don't think things are quite as, I think culturally some stuff is starting to mix together more, and I think that church is probably going to be diverse. I think my fan base, when I do music, is a lot more diverse. And so I think a lot of that is changing some. So I'm very interested to see what we think of as black church, if we still think of black church in the way that we do in the years coming.
Okay, well that was my last question for you, but any parting thoughts to, your fan base, the people who you inspire and influence?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping that the message of Rise, that God has made us a certain way and we're created to live that way, I'm hoping that really catches on through the music and the book. And I'm maybe even hoping folks who are not young and who have a friend in college, have a son or daughter in college, I hope that this is one of the books that they pass to them to encourage them.
All right, thank you very much, Trip Lee, for your input and your message to the younger generation.
Thank you for having me.
We need more voices like yours.
I appreciate that.
All right, and thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please write to us at cpnewsroom@christianpost.com. See you next time.